Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1M1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual incubator and accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in revenue, build $1 trillion in global GDP, and 10 million jobs. We are headquartered at the heart of Silicon Valley, right off Sand Hill Road, but there is no physical requirement for the accelerator, so we can work with any of you anywhere in the world. And that is the key goal that we started with, is to really take entrepreneurship education and incubation as broadly and as democratically as possible to the world's entrepreneurs everywhere. So if you have been here before, you know the format, but if this is your first time, let me just quickly walk you through a little bit of what we're going to do. This is our 269th free public roundtable, by the way. So we've been doing this for a little while, and you know, over 30,000 people have been part of these sessions. The event is being recorded. You will have a recording available both on our blog as well as on our YouTube channel. If you're live tweeting the show, please use hashtag 1M1M. Our Twitter handles are @1M1M and @Romana. The YouTube channel is 1M1M Roundtable. You'll find recordings of all prior sessions there. And almost all the sessions since last fall have a guest in them. So you see in the first 30 minutes of this session is an interesting discussion with an industry leader. And these are the call-in instructions. We're not quite ready for call-in yet. I will put these up when we are ready for call-ins. So you will have a chance to call in and ask your questions and so forth. But definitely think about questions, you know. This is a roundtable after all, so it's not our intent to have a panel speak at you and that's it. We will definitely want you to talk to us both by phone as well as through the public chat, so definitely use the public chat abundantly. So we will start the session today with Betsy Corcoran, a longtime friend and colleague of mine. Betsy was my editor at Forbes. She was a very, very well-known technology journalist and editor. That's when we got to know each other. But then she went on to found EdSurge and is today probably the most knowledgeable person in the educational technology industry on the planet. Welcome, Betsy. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, Romana. I'm delighted to be here and really glad to have a chance to talk with you again.
Absolutely. Betsy, can you give our audience a little bit of your vision of what you're trying to do with EdSurge?
Absolutely. So as you said, we started EdSurge about 4 years ago. And I did, in fact, quit my job at Forbes to do that, which at that point during the downturn was really a very scary thing. But I have spent, as you know, Shramana, many, many years writing about technology across many different fields. And what I observed were that there were certain characteristics that happened in an ecosystem when a new industry was being formed. At the same time, I am a mom. I had sons in the public schools here in Northern California, and it seemed to me that there was a really big gap between what we saw happening in the schools and what I knew was going on in technology in the wider world. So the spur to quit my job really was to see if there was something I could contribute between kind of bridging what I saw in the technology world and what I saw in the education world. As I spent a whole year really immersing myself in education, working very, very intently with a number of schools in the area, and felt that I learned tremendously from many educators and many of the experiences that I had. And then toward the end of that year, I started to see these aspects of an ecosystem coming together. And at that point, what I felt was that I could make a contribution in two different ways using the journalism background that I had. First was to try to be a forum for exchanging information about the entrepreneurial world and about how people were trying to start companies, how they were trying to form this ecosystem. And then the second thing, which was really important to me, was to try to provide another source of independent information, really one of the few at that point, that was trying to talk about what tools were relevant for what environment. You know, not every piece of education technology should be used in every school. Not every teacher should use the same thing. It's sort of like if you were having lunch and you ordered a bowl of soup and somebody handed you a fork, you'd have a very unsatisfying experience. And so really we founded EdSurge with two ideas. One is to support this emerging ecosystem, but then very powerfully to help people, to help educators see the difference between a fork and a spoon. And so we really devoted the last 4 years to that. We write a lot of news and we share a lot of news. We have 2 weekly newsletters along with our blog, excuse me, which is at edsurge.com. We host now about 12 different conferences around the United States, as well as regular meetups here in the Northern California area. And we are building out a set of tools that we hope will start to kind of give educators more support as they try to figure out what's the right piece of technology for the teaching environment, for the needs of their students, for the needs of their schools. So yeah, so that's what we're doing.
Fantastic. So let's actually dig down into what you see in this ecosystem that you've now immersed yourself in. We've seen a lot of action, a lot of experiments, a lot of innovation in the EdTech space in the recent years. For a long time, EdTech was not a highly active space from a technology industry point of view, but now it is. And just a few weeks back, we had Anant Agarwal, CEO of edX, as a guest here, and we discussed the future of higher ed with him. So how would you summarize the key EdTech trends today?
Sure. So we're seeing, well, I guess a couple of starting thoughts for you. First, we're starting to get more sophisticated about talking about education. When we talk about education, we're talking about a huge spectrum of activities, right? There's what happens when children are very small, preschool. There's what happens in the home. There's what happens in formal school environments. And there's what happens as people get older, either post-secondary, university, or later in life, in the workforce, and really lifelong learning. So number one is we're starting to get a lot more sophisticated when we talk about learning, when we talk about creating a collection of tools for supporting learning. Who are we really talking about? I think you, Shramana, do a wonderful job with your community of making sure that, number one, you're always thinking about who are the customers, what's the need you're trying to serve. So point number one is we're starting to get a lot more sophisticated in education about really talking about which part of this ecosystem are we talking about, what are the needs that we're talking about. So that's kind of point number one. Kind of a second point that goes along with that is that we're getting a lot more sophisticated within education of thinking about what are really the needs of the people in those communities. So once again, let's talk for a moment about K-12, so that community of learners that are usually kids in formal school settings. Even within this sector, there's a lot of differences that we see. We talk about digital curriculum, which are literally the tools that teachers might use to help educate kids. But we also talk about tools for supporting teachers. We talk about tools for supporting the schools. So you can start to see that there's a lot more complexity than just kind of this hand-wavy thing about, oh, is there, you know, what does education technology involve? The third point is that at the core of learning are people. And I think that, we have sometimes heard conversations and questions about, oh, well, are we trying to replace teachers with technology? I don't think we're any more trying to replace teachers with technology than somebody would say you use transportation technology to replace your feet. You don't use transportation technology to replace your feet. You use it to augment and to support and make it possible for you to go someplace that candidly you're probably not going to walk to. So if I'm going to travel from New York to California, I'm probably not going to walk. I could, but it will take me a long time. Instead, I'm more likely to take some sort of piece of technology, a plane, a train, probably not a boat, but I'm going to look for a kind of technology that will augment my ability to get from point A to point B. So in the same way, we at EdSurge fundamentally believe that teachers are at the heart of learning, that people are at the heart of learning. We are inspired by people. The more interesting question is, okay, so what are the tools that can augment the way that we learn, the way that people can inspire us, the way that people teach? So we're starting to get a lot more sophisticated and a lot more thoughtful about thinking about the role of technology in supporting the education process. And then the last thing is that we're really happily, rethinking a lot of what we mean by education. So for instance, many of us have been in school where school consists of going to a lecture, taking a collection of notes, memorizing or learning those notes, and kind of regurgitating what we just learned. So there are some instances in which that is a useful mechanism for learning. But most of the time when we're learning, we're exploring the world. We want to create something. We don't want to just prove to someone else that we can spit back something that they already know. We want to move the world forward a little bit. And guess what? Learners of all ages want to do that. So we've heard a lot, we've started to talk a lot, even in the K-12 framework, about how do you personalize learning. Well, why do we want to personalize it? Because everyone really wants to be on a learning voyage themselves. And so the last kind of question that's really exciting is how do we make sure that we're using tools to support learning, to support this personal journey of discovery of how do we learn in the world, what are the tools that support that, and how do we create an environment, how do we create sort of learning environments that support that as well. So, these are some of the really big questions that we're talking about. Now, there's a whole other set of questions, which I haven't addressed, which have to do with, do we have an infrastructure for supporting this? Do we have a social infrastructure that recognizes this? Those are a lot of big questions, too. So it's a fascinating time to be part of thinking about what learning and education means. Last thing I'd like to say is that, to this point, is that, we think of different eras in history. We think of, you can go back to whatever era you like. You can go back to the Bronze Age. You can talk about the Industrial Age. When we think about the world that we're creating, that you're creating with the entrepreneurs whom you are mentoring and you are working with, what's clear about the world going forward is we are all going to be learners for our entire lives. Things that change too quickly for us to feel that we've figured out everything about a job and all we need to do is do it over and over. Shramana, you and I worked together at Forbes. The skills that we learned were super relevant at that moment, but we couldn't do exactly what we did at Forbes. Now, if we did, we wouldn't really be very relevant to the world. We all have to keep learning. So we're in an era now where our ability to learn and our ability to change is going to be fundamental for us creating our lives and our futures and the opportunities in front of us. So I don't think there's any effort that's really more exciting and more open to innovation and change than this whole area of learning and how we build a collection of tools and processes for supporting that.
So Betsy, that's a great overview. You mentioned segments, and for the world that we are in. We are, entrepreneurs, and you're talking to a community of entrepreneurs for whom it's vitally important to understand the segments. If you want to do anything in entrepreneurship, we have to understand exactly which segment, precisely which customer are we building a solution for. So can you pick a few of the key segments in education and give us your thoughts about what you're seeing, what are the, you can take whatever tack, whether it's trends, whether it's examples of interesting companies that you've seen that speak to those trends, or even business models, and what's emerging as good entrepreneurial segments. So K through 12, let's start with K through 12. It's probably the one that's most complicated, actually, because of education being a public good. This is a segment where entrepreneurs are still having a lot of trouble. What are your thoughts on that? What are your observations?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to ask you to repeat one thing. I missed the word that describe which segment you specifically asked about again. The words got lost.
K through 12.
K through 12, oh, right, sure, okay. Big segment. Yeah, so let's kind of break it down a little bit, and let's talk explicitly about K-12. So what happens in the K-12 segment? We are interested in getting information to the schools. We're interested in how one manages information within the context of the school. We're interested in how people manage information and get it to people outside of the school, namely parents and the people who are supporting learners. So let's talk about a couple of specifics. One of the companies that we've seen that has been extremely interesting is a company called Clever. They started about 4 years ago, and they had a pretty simple observation, which is that many schools use different varieties of student information systems to store information about their students, whether that's grades, attendance, et cetera. SISs are, in many instances, kind of the fundamental backbone for school data systems. But it turned out that many of the entrepreneurs who were building tools, they would have to connect into these SIS systems, but there were many SIS systems. And so how would entrepreneurs approach a school, be able to kind of second guess which SIS system would be there, and particularly if they were a small company, be able to plug into that SIS system so that a school could even try out or test or experiment with their technology. Clever came in and said, we'll be the bridge. We'll be a glue. We're going to create basically kind of a universal platform so that any incoming application could plug in through Clever and connect to whatever variety of SIS system was in the school. Incredibly powerful idea, complicated piece of technology, but very fundamental for helping kind of technologies get into the school. So that's been a very powerful example of something. Here's another example. Working within the schools. We are seeing there are a lot of SIS systems. There also are a lot of versions of learning management systems. That's probably still a pretty frothy area. We've seen there was traditionally Blackboard, which was a very big learning management system that's had kind of challengers coming in. We see some other big, relatively big companies now, a company called Instructure, which is now probably about 7 or 8 years old, is now really vying with Blackboard to kind of be in that learning management category. They're trying to do a little bit of everything. They're trying to be a big basket and say we can organize everything. So now the question is, okay, so who's going to work well with different learning management systems? And so we're seeing a lot more specific applications. We're seeing gradebook applications. There's quite a lot of those. And some of those are catering to the types of tests so that in the United States, schools are very interested in, such as Common Core. Some of the kind of gradebook-like applications are actually catering to project-based learning. There's kind of a really interesting collection of those that are saying, how do you create a portfolio of learning management? How do you create a portfolio of activities for students that aren't just grades, but maybe kind of capture digital representations of performances or of projects or something like that? How do you manage those? Super interesting. Then there's a whole collection of communications technologies about connecting back to the classroom. So again, a couple of other companies that have become very interesting has been Remind, which is a messaging system that helps teachers connect back with parents. There's one called Class Dojo, which is around class management. So again, what we are really seeing is people kind of breaking down the pipeline of what has to happen. We know students come into school, we know something happens to them, we know that they go home. And so the smart entrepreneurs are really kind of diving into the specific areas of that whole pipeline. And then there's one other huge area, which is the education of teachers themselves, or professional development. We've seen a lot of innovation around using techniques such as, using video to collect and record teachers teaching in class, and then how do they get mentors and comments from their colleagues about how to improve their teaching techniques. So bottom line is that schools are a really complex ecosystem, and you're exactly right, Shramana, that kind of really diving down and looking at kind of what are the needs of the teachers, the communications needs, school needs, are where we're seeing some really interesting innovations.
And where do you see the content side of all this? Are we getting to any conclusions? Is the content going to come from digital versions or digital enhancements of user experience from the textbook providers, the app guys? What's the evolution of the content story?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. We certainly have seen a tremendous explosion of content on math and on English language arts. And we're seeing kind of two different directions. We're seeing more players come in and say, we have a different way of thinking through, for instance, how to teach math, or we have a different way of thinking about what are, how do you have a group discussion in a world that may be partially bricks and mortar and partially virtual around, say, a piece of writing or something like that. But once again, we're also seeing a lot of efforts to support how do we help teachers and students also sometimes create their own content, either help teachers create their own lessons and share those lessons out, or what are ways that we can support student collaboration so that there is also kind of creation of content there. So it's definitely not a world that's owned by the textbook manufacturers any longer. We do see certainly textbook companies are trying very hard, and one that's kind of interesting is I think we're seeing McGraw-Hill take a very, very active role in what's called adaptive learning, which is that they are developing a collection of algorithms that look at how students move through a body of work, and they are trying to create different learning pathways for students going through that material. So if you and I encounter one math problem and you answer it one way and I answer it another way, they're trying to understand what did Betsy not understand that Shramana did understand, and let's repair or fill in the gaps in Betsy's knowledge, and let's take Shramana on an advanced course or something like that. So the adaptive programs are extremely interesting. They involve the most amount of what's called big data, deep data analysis. That means that they also have an underbelly, which is that they are collecting a lot of information on students and on student performance, and that's raised a whole other set of questions, which is around who owns that data, where does that data live, should students have the right to pull out or withdraw their data. So there's a whole collection of really fascinating questions around that. So I guess in summary, I'd say that some of the most aggressive use of algorithms are things that we are seeing the bigger companies do, because those are pretty complicated things, often involving larger teams of people to think through that. They are fascinating. They do have real risks involved, but they also have great opportunities. The question you're going to ask me, Shramana, because I know you this well, You're going to say, well, Betsy, what's really working out there? You're telling me that there's all these kind of interesting experiments, but what works? And that's a really big question, and we're still figuring that out. We're still trying to understand. We're still trying to, number one, understand how we know what works. We're seeing some efforts to develop shorter testing protocols so that we can, in less time than a semester or a year, sort of try to analyze, are we helping a student kind of achieve greater learning performance? But that's still at an early stage. So we are still, this is still a field that's very, very much in the laboratory and still very much in development.
So what do you think is the timeline? Are we talking maybe by the end of the decade we start seeing some answers? Because these are long-term experiments.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot sooner than that, right? Because most of us, we don't want to have our kids stay in 4th grade for an entire decade. No, we really do. We are seeing an enormous effort to look for shorter-term protocols, where sometimes those shorter-term protocols, people hope they could be as short as 2 weeks, to say, are we seeing some useful outcomes of using a piece of technology in a particular environment? Those protocols are very much in development. We're seeing both the U.S. Department of Education as well as some of the foundations, such as the Gates Foundation, put a lot of money into developing pilot centers, where those centers are trying to develop protocols that people feel will have some real results and some very defendable results behind them. So, no, we've got to figure this out much sooner than a decade, but we haven't figured it out quite yet.
So on this topic, my last question is actually about business models, which I'm sure you knew that I would ask you as well.
Yeah.
So entrepreneurs will have to build businesses. We understand that there's a big portion of the K-12 segment that depends on grants, and the Gates Foundation is playing a big role in trying to figure this out, and all of that's great. What about the entrepreneurs who are trying to actually build for-profit businesses and even venture-funded businesses out of this industry? What business models are you seeing that are working, and what are some examples of companies that are, executing on business models that are working?
Yeah, so you're right. There's been a lot of confusion and complexity in this world. We certainly, I'll say one thing, which is I think that we can't say that the models are 100% clear at this point, right? But I'll tell you what we seem to have learned over the last 4 years. Number one is that teachers appreciate the fact that if you are not buying the product, that you are the product, right? And so there's, I think, nervousness in many instances among educators that if a product seems to be free, that, someone's collecting data on them, and so it's not as free as one likes to be. So we are seeing more educators say, if we can get a price that is, not extraordinarily large, we would rather actually sometimes pay for something rather than get it, quote, for free. So we've seen a number of companies that have really diligently built out business models where they are charging from day one. One of the companies that's quite interesting is a company called Hapara, H-A-P-A-R-A. It actually began in New Zealand, and it began by selling its product, which is, in a sense, almost like a dashboard for managing Google Apps in a school. Predated Google Apps for schools, and actually has a tremendous amount of functionality that at this point even goes beyond some of what Google offers. And they've always charged, and they have done a wonderful job of first building a business originally in New Zealand and then coming to the U.S. market with a little bit of strength and continuing to always sell their product. anything that is aimed at a school where there is a, here's the funny thing about schools. Money comes in buckets in schools. So it's worthwhile spending a little time thinking about which bucket of money, if you are selling a product, would your product fit into. Schools do set aside fairly significant money for professional development. So we see many professional development tools, and these are tools that help teachers be better teachers, come with a price tag, never be free. Because number one, they recognize that there is the ability to pay for that, and they therefore, then the question is, how do we set a price that's not unreasonable for schools, a fair price, but one that they're willing to pay. So that's a very powerful thing. And we certainly have seen many, many freemium models. Some of them have worked and some of them haven't. We have also seen there's another company that's really worth mentioning. There's a company called Quizlet, which has offered a collection of sort of mechanisms for studying, right, like flashcards online. They had a fascinating business model. They've been entirely bootstrapped. You'd be very proud of them, Shramana. You should really have them on your show here. But they've been entirely bootstrapped. They've never taken any venture money. They're actually very, very large and a very dominant player right now. They actually funded the original business through another business. So the team of people who started Quizlet originally started Quizlet as a free flashcard application, and they funded it by starting a small antique sales business on the side. And so they cross-subsidized the business until such time that they had enough momentum with Quizlet that they're actually generating significant revenue through advertising and then through a premium product. And so they're a wonderful example of someone who very purposefully bootstrapped with another mechanism for funding until they had enough volume and they had enough demonstration in the marketplace of the need for the product that they could really use these other mechanisms, namely a great freemium product and premium services and some advertising support. So Quizlet is one that I think should be a real hero in your, in your constellation here.
So, folks, we have Betsy for just half an hour. I want to give you some pointers on the subject of guests we've had also covering other aspects of online education, educational technology. We had Anant Agarwal here recently talking about the future of higher education. Anant is the CEO of edX, which is a joint venture between Harvard and MIT in the MOOCs category. Anant was also my advisor at MIT, so we go back a long way. And another company, speaking of highly capital efficient ed tech companies, I don't know, Betsy, have you run into Magoosh?
Absolutely. Magoosh is a lovely company. We've seen them a number of times. Yeah, and no, they've been delightful. One of the things that we do is we sponsor a series of I mentioned, conferences around the United States where we bring together teachers and entrepreneurs, and the idea isn't to sell the products. The idea is to really have an exchange where the entrepreneurs can say, here's what we're trying to do, and the teachers can say, oh, this is how it fits into my environment, this is how it doesn't fit into my environment. I think we've seen Magoosh at some of these as well. So we're fans.
Magoosh is a wonderful company. So, folks, you can check out our session with Paveen Parekh, who's the CEO of Magoosh. They've really done a superb job of capital-efficient entrepreneurship. So, so definitely worth checking out. Betsy, thank you so much for sharing your...
Yeah, one last thing that I've neglected to mention that I really would like to mention for your entrepreneurs as a resource. So if on our site, which is EdSurge.com, if you go to EdSurge.com/products, you'll see what we call the EdSurge Index. That currently is a catalog of close to 1,500 education technology tools. And so, Shramana, I know that you advise your folks to be really thoughtful about your research. When you're researching a category, when you're thinking about what your product is, one of the key issues is, okay, who else is in the space and what else are they doing? The EdTech Index is an incredibly powerful place for you to find out who else is doing what. And so it's totally open, it's totally free. People are, we want people to use it. We have again, descriptions of the tools in various forums. We have many tools that have long descriptions. We have all tools characterized. And then the tools that have participated in our conferences, and I think there's more than 150 of them now, also have significant commentary from teachers that we collect at our conferences embedded in those product profiles. And so there's a lot of rich information for anyone who's doing their homework on what to do in this space.
And Betsy, what we'll do is also incorporate the EdTech index into our into our curriculum in the online education section. So that way, you know, for the competitive analysis, it would be a very good tool to dovetail into. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all the work you're doing, Betsy. This is wonderful. What you're doing is amazing, and it's great to see you blossom.
Well, Shramana, you are an inspiration to me and to millions of entrepreneurs around the world. So thank you, and it's great to have a good excuse to come and chat with you again.
And we'll do that again. Thanks, Betsy.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, folks, we're going to switch to the mentoring portion of the roundtables. And let me just give you, for those of you who are coming here for the first time, let me give you a little bit of protocol here. This is a working session. So it's not something, it's not a kind of show where you have to be perfect. You don't need to be perfect. We are here to work together and make progress. So my intent is to give you constructive feedback. Your intent should be to receive constructive feedback without being defensive. And you know, I'm not going to want to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, and please accept that in that spirit that my intent is to help you make progress. And in as much as possible, I will try to give you pointers to ways you can make progress, and you know, that's really the structure of the next portion of our roundtable. So we'll start with Kevin Coleman in Wilmington, Delaware. Kevin, please unmute your line and tell us what you're working on.
Hello, Shramana. This is Kevin Coleman in Wilmington, Delaware, as you mentioned. So I appreciate the opportunity to come online and speak about WatchWise security. I particularly appreciate the fact that Betsy Corcoran, who I haven't met before, was on and talking about technology, specifically related to education, but just the whole idea of spoon versus fork experience to make sure that you find the right piece of technology for the right application is real key, and I think it's pertinent to our discussion about what WatchWise security is bringing to the table right now. So I certainly appreciate this opportunity to speak with you. I really wanted to take the time to talk about who we are as an organization, to talk about where we fit in the marketplace and really how vast the opportunity is, certainly talking about how we're going to attack the market specifically in a segment, and really what we're going to do, what problems exist, and how we're going to address it. And as a result of doing that effectively, what kind of opportunity presents for WatchWise security and potential investors. Okay? So I appreciate you advancing to the next slide. So really, WatchWise security is really a game-changing surveillance technology company. You know, we're located in Delaware, but unlike any single capability in the marketplace, we have a patented real-time response system that is really revolutionary in terms of being able to centralize the transfer of data in terms of live video feeds, GPS coordinates, and DVR images using existing technology to policing authorities whenever an event happens or is triggered, which is different from what's going on in the marketplace right now. And I'll talk a little bit about that in the problem section. But really, by doing this effectively and enhancing the capabilities of the existing technology, it really gives us a chance to really have a coordinated, efficient, and very economic way of being able to transmit critical information to security personnel. And that's really key in terms of allowing the proper resources to address the issues that are in the marketplace in a way that's more effective and unprecedented in terms of how it's being done right now. As a result of doing that successfully over the next 3 to 5 years, we expect our growth to be in excess of $55 million and expect with a gross profit of about $34 million. So needless to say, we're excited about the opportunity. Let me talk a minute about what that market opportunity looks like. It really is, it's a vast opportunity and has a wide range of possibilities in a lot of different segments. But our initial approach is really colleges, universities, and municipalities, as well as policing authorities. You know, through our research, we know that the federal government is projecting that there's going to be a spend of more than $2.4 billion to really address the security issues of more than 21 million students in colleges and universities around the United States. 75% of that spend is going to be specifically on security technology. So the space that we're operating in really lends itself to being able to take advantage of that opportunity. Next slide, please. So here's the problem. So the problem is very vast. There are already technologies in the surveillance area that are available for people to leverage to address security issues. You know, you have cameras, for example, all over. You have sensors and ways of being able to detect, you know, if someone breaks into an area and triggers an alarm, something like that. You have police patrols. You have data storage devices to be able to collect video images and store that information for investigations. You have live monitoring, those types of resources that are available to kind of watch a specific area to detect if anything's happening. But these technologies already exist. The issue is that they're not real time. So there's no real coordinated way of being able to tie everything together and be able to provide meaningful and timely transmission of that data so that you can bring the right resources to address and deter crimes. As a result of that, you have a delay in response time. You have incomplete view of the situation so that it can be meaningful to those who are responding. And there's an overwhelming amount of volume of data to be able to sift through when something happens. Unfortunately, the result is that you have issues that happen. You have fatalities. You know, when you look at what happened with Virginia Tech, when there was a fatality of over 33 students losing their lives, you know, being able to have that information in the right way, in the timely way, can hopefully be able to prevent some of these things from happening. Property loss, unsolved abductions, costly lawsuits, unresolved robberies, and increasing insurance claims, all of these happen because of the time gap between what happens and how to get that information to the authorities in a meaningful way. Next slide.
So, Kevin, I have one question here.
Okay.
I'm completely in agreement with your analysis of, you know, real time being a, you know, huge value add to the surveillance process. What intrigues me is your assumption that there is no real-time surveillance system. That doesn't sound like an accurate assumption to me. Have you done a thorough enough competitive due diligence?
We have, and that's a very good question. And I guess sometimes it really depends on how someone interprets the term real time, because sometimes the semantics and people can mean different things when they use that term. What we mean by real time is being able to transfer information right at the point that something happens, but being able to pull that information together and capture historical information that have been captured prior to the event as well. There are devices, for example, if someone's looking at live monitoring, so you can see an event while it's happening. You're watching a camera and you're looking at traffic going to a store, something like that. That might be considered real time, but that's not really tying together when a trigger happens. So you can be watching something and then something happens in close proximity and you don't know that that's happening because you're not watching that particular area. What we do is we tie it all together. So not only where a trigger happens, but in the proximity around where triggers happen, to be able to bring all that information, as well as something that happened maybe an hour or two prior to that immediately, and transfer that directly to the authorities. Typically, when something happens, there's a process that someone has to go through in order to bring the information from that event to the responder. and that's not real time. That's the delay. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Well, yes, I just, I'm just going to continue to encourage you to be sure to stay on top of what's happening elsewhere and who's doing what, because, this is a surveillance is an area of the industry where there is innovation, there is action. So, I'm sure there are people working on real-time surveillance on a continuous basis. So you need to stay on top of your competitive landscape rather precisely on a regular basis. That's my input. So let's carry on. I think I've made my point. You've made your point. Let's carry on to the next slide.
I appreciate that, and I agree. So just to bring the problem down a little more succinctly, so we see that there's a gap in the technology in terms of how the technologies allow responders to reply or respond to an event. So, for example, if there's a gunshot, if someone hears that, they have to get on their phone and call 911, relate that to a policing authority who transmits it out to maybe the local patrol, and then eventually they arrive at the scene. All of that, but even when they arrive at the scene, they don't have complete information because they have to go there, see what happened, investigate, and be able to respond in that way, which can put the police officers at risk because they don't have complete information. And certainly there's that big delay, time delay. We estimate about 12 to 17 minutes on average in terms of when something happens, if this process goes forward in a meaningful way. So that's the problem, and we talked a little bit about what happens as a result of that gap. Next slide, please. So here's our solution. What we do is we, through the RTRS system, a real-time response system, it allows us to take advantage of various types of triggers, gunshots, the blue light system on colleges and universities, any number of triggers, and there's an enormous amount of triggers that we can incorporate into the solution. We'll be able to capture video feeds from not only the point where it takes place, but the surrounding areas, being able to tie that information in, being able to bring in GPS locations to pinpoint where things are going on, as well as be able to tap into existing data stores like DVR panels to be able to bring back information that may have happened just prior to the event, to tie that in and get it directly to the policing authority that may be in a particular zone. So that way we can cut down the amount of time, give full information to the policing authorities to be able to get the type of action necessary to resolve the issues that are going on. And this is just not happening in the marketplace today. So we're excited about being able to bring this because it brings opportunities to leverage the existing technologies. When we look at the development of bringing our product to the marketplace, we're looking at the first stage of being able to build out. We already have a workable model to be able to show the capabilities, but we want to build up a larger prototype to be able to show it and scale it to different environments. As a result of that, we're going to be testing this prototype in our existing client environment on Cecil College. So we can incorporate that into their blue light system, and then we'll be able to scale it and pilot it into a number of cities as well as other counties. So the investment requirements and the opportunity for investors really is we are pre-revenue. So we're looking for $5 million to fully bring our TRS to the marketplace, and part of that is $500,000 to complete this initial stage at Cecil College in Maryland. That $500,000 is going to be targeted, as I mentioned, piloting the product and being able to integrate it into the client environment and deploying our engineers as well to add on to the more than 10,000 lines of codes that we have right now and incorporating that into the blue light system. The balance of that is going to be able to scale to reach market penetration with the big market that we're talking about. Next slide.
So Kevin, I'll just comment on your slide and your goals here. Financing is something you need to understand how it works. Mostly on a pure concept basis, you cannot raise $5 million. So if you were to, it's hard for me to walk you through the entire subject of financing, startup financing in this session, but we do have a full curriculum that will teach you everything that you need to know about financing and help you diagnose what you need to do, what are the requirements of financing. There's a correlation between financing and total available market that you need to understand. There's a bunch of different modules of the startup curriculum, so to speak, that you need to master. We have the curriculum. If you want to learn how to, master all those angles of startup development, you're welcome to learn through 1M1M, but you do need to learn these pieces to be able to, this assumption is a fundamentally flawed assumption, so you're going to need to modify these assumptions on financing and so forth by learning what works and what doesn't work in the startup financing world. What are the requirements? What are the correlations between total available market? How to develop a total available market model, and how that correlates with startup financing. So these are the pieces that you're going to need to master in making progress through your project. Okay.
Great, thank you for that feedback. So I just wanted to end here by giving our view of why invest in West. Why as a pre-revenue organization that we find that is valuable to consider investing with us at this stage, and of course taking a look at the information that you suggested to talk about the intricacies of financing and the pieces that need to be addressed. One is that we have a U.S. patent that's been awarded that really gives us this capability that didn't exist before. So we're excited about that. We have a team that's ready to go to market both on the technical side and on the management side, so we're very excited about the quality of the team that we've been able to put together to be able to put us in a position to move rapidly as the pieces start to come together. We have an invitation from Samsung Corporation to really come and really leverage this resource, RTRS, in a homeland security application. So I'm talking about at a high level. So we're very excited about that. We've talked to Bank of America and PNC Bank, and they're both very interested, and again at a high level, interested in applying this technology for an ATM application. We've even passed on an opportunity where an investor offered us $1 billion just to buy the patent. We're not interested in doing that. We're interested in building it out and going to market with it. And Cecil Collins has such confidence in us. They've given us office space in the build-out area to really roll this product out and looking at being one of our first clients as well. We've even been profiled. We've even been profiled in Cecil County 2014 Economic Development as one of the 2 upcoming companies, even at this stage of our development. In Delaware, Newcastle County is already interested in incorporating our solution into a very new, and this is unprecedented across the country. You can Google that. They have a new surveillance fusion center, which gives them a view of all the security resources throughout the whole state. And this is very innovative across any type of municipalities, and they're interested in working with us. So we're excited about that. One of the things we're very mindful of is as we built this solution from the ground up, we built it to transcend obsolescence so that we incorporate our solutions with existing technology. So as those technologies, as new cameras come out, as new analytical software comes out, as new sensors come out, we're able to keep lockstep with that and be able to integrate our solutions, be able to bring that information from whatever devices to the policing authorities. So we're ready to move forward as the industry evolves.
Kevin, are you in touch with Ken Anderson in the Delaware government?
I am. As a matter of fact, the reason why we're on the line with you right now is because of Ken Anderson.
I thought so. All right. Well, then you should sync up with Ken, and we are working on actually. I cannot pre-announce it until it's actually done. But Ken is working with us with 1M1M on a partnership right now, and maybe you can take advantage of it.
Okay, we're looking forward to it.
All right.
Great.
Very
Thank
good.
you so much.
Thank you, Kevin, for your presentation. Jay, you're up next. Appertain is the company.
Yes. So my name is Jay. I believe everyone is able to hear, right? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
I'm Jay. I'm from Chennai, India, and I've been like 15 plus years of experience in software development. I was part of Zoho in the initial years, around 4 years experience in Zoho, and then came out and joined Rainbow Technologies and worked on their software product, and then came out and started on my own. I was initially a mobile app developer, so I developed around 6 games, and it is published under my company, K-12 Technologies. And when we were doing it, we were seeing a lot of requirements for some kind of a customer engagement kind of tools. For example, like maybe rating prompts or in-app support or push notification services or in-app surveys. Those types of tools which interact with, make sure the developer interacts with the customer and enables what I can say, like user to interact with the developer as well as the developer interacts with the user, such that they can improve the user experience basically. That's how this started. So next slide, please. So this was founded in 2012. I almost ran through this. Next slide. So our major target is mobile developers and publishers of apps, games, those types of stuff. And our major focus is on app developers who are doing native app development. And we have found that there are major pain points in actual app customer engagement, because nowadays most of the support is either through phone or through email, and both actually fell through because the users don't use those stuff often, the end users. And even if there is email support and a lot of investment done in ticketing system and everything, the user immediately doesn't get the information, and the interaction with the app itself is a little bit of disjointed. So we are in the smartphone era. We should not have a disjointed interface of interaction with the user. So we thought that there is a very able need for an in-app support system where the user sees the queries as a conversation platform, like maybe a WhatsApp. Okay, so he interacts with the developer immediately, and the developer side, it is actually a ticketing system which addresses his own side of things. So he can track the conversation and make sure he closes the tickets and everything. So that is one of the major pain points we saw. And another thing was like asking for reviews, because if you ask for reviews, the users are ready to give those reviews. And if you ask them often and you don't know when to ask them these reviews or ratings or something, and it often ends up in a negative review. So what we did was, like, we added a little bit of layer where we record users' behavior patterns and parameters, like in a game where a user is successfully completing one step or a level, that's a positive experience for the user. And if he is failing in a lot of stuff in a game, it's a negative experience. So we track these two separate types of experiences within the game. And when there are lots of positive experiences, we prompt a rating prompt such that the user converts the positive experience into a positive review. And if there are lots of negative experiences, it converts it into a conversation, we prompt the feedback prompt where the user sends the feedback, I'm frustrated with this, what should I do? And the developer addresses those things and converts those experiences into positive experiences, such that in future there will be a positive review. Okay.
So Jay, I have a question about what you're doing here. So are you then introducing a whole app development platform that has these functionalities? How do you insert these functionalities into a game developer's or a mobile developer's development environment?
We provide a pluggable SDK which has these engagement tools. So you have to just integrate a few API calls to record the experiences of the user, as well as we, by default, we track some of the users, like the session time or the time which they spend on each activity of each screen. each process.
No, but what are the assumptions here? Is the developer, the mobile developer developing on a certain platform, and then your SDK is an add-on to that platform, or how are you going to market with this?
Very similar to how currently we integrate Google Analytics into the mobile app platform. So we have a small SDK which is maybe a jar or a separate Eclipse project which can be integrated to the app, and it actually the app comes in bundled with that most of the tools which I provide. So it's a pluggable SDK. It's like 2 or 3 API calls, you're done with the plugging of the SDK itself, and it gets bundled. Okay.
And you can do it from any of the developer platforms?
Yes, for Android, iOS, Windows, any developer platforms it can be done. Even like if you are having a Unity game, it can be used with a Unity plugin. Okay.
But there are also, on top of Android and iOS and so forth, there's a whole bunch of platform as systems that have come into the market. These days, people don't do native mobile development. There, many people are developing on top of other stacks, right?
Yeah, that is what I told. Like we currently have a native SDK. In future, we are going to integrate Unity type SDK or Photo or like SDK. Every plugin will be available separately, but the core platform is the same. Our SaaS backend is the same, and the concept of storing the user behavior patterns and everything going to remain the same.
Okay. All right.
So that is how we address these pain points, and we are planning on acquiring customers using. We participated in a few trade shows. One of the trade shows we participated recently in is a Global Mobile App Summit and Awards, and we were very much appreciated by the audience, and they gave a Most Promising SDK of the Year award. As well as we have collected a lot of developer email addresses as well as contacts. So we are planning on sending out personalized cold calls and personalized email campaigning to these developers, and try to make them to be an early adopter to this platform. Okay. And as well as we are doing some content marketing as well as and other type of marketing as well. Okay. So as a validation, we actually did a very small soft launch around a year back, around July 2014, in a small trade show, where we met developers and showed this is how the product is going to look like with mock screens and some type of live material. And we did a lot of validation around 100+ developers at that show. And we started development after that, and we did a private beta around February this year. And after the private beta, we attended the GMASA show where we got the Most Promising SDK of the Year award. So there is interest among the developers to a need of this kind of customer engagement tools. We are trying to collate these customer engagement tools in a simple platform where they can easily access it. And currently, we use this platform in our own games, as well as we have around 5 customers who are part of this early adopter program, where we have given them around a year of this usage of this platform for free, and trying to convert them into paid customers as the year ends. Okay. And we are also in discussions with the reseller to onboard more developers to this platform.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go to the next thing here. So currently our business model is like a premium model. So we charge based on the monthly active users of the app. So if there are more number of monthly active users, basically you can go upgrade to a paid plan. So this is how this model is structured. So we are currently just now out of a private beta, and we are looking for developers to study our apps and everything. And my questions to you is like seed investment. Is this the right time, or should we wait for more traction for getting seed investment?
Yes, I think you will need to show some traction before you approach seed investors, especially seed investors in India tend not to, actually nowhere right now, the seed investment market is a market that looks for traction. So yes, absolutely. If you can generate, a chunk of paying customers, your chances of getting investment is higher. Again, you also need to understand what the funding requirements are. So the same thing I told Kevin, I will tell you, is that you need to understand what investors are looking for, and we can give you a crash course on that based on the 1M curriculum, so that you can learn what are the pieces needed for for an investment to be viable. It's not just validated customers that investors are looking for. Investors are looking for a lot more than that, and you need that whole stack of collaterals to be able to win funding. How do you get attention from angels who will add not just money but valued inputs to your startup? That would be through your network, through personal networks, and through our network if you decide to work with 1M. That's where we will be adding value. And is PR really necessary? PR is very necessary. The more you can get PR, the better. And content marketing strategy tend to be very good ways of taking PR in your own hand. If you follow the 1M program, you probably know that we get a tremendous amount of visibility in the media and in social media because we have a very effective content marketing strategy. And that works. That works really well. Okay? Any other questions, Jay?
Yeah, the one major question, if we have good number of paying customers, do we need to look for investors, or we can bootstrap ourselves?
If you can bootstrap, we always encourage bootstrapping. The further you can delay funding, the better.
Yeah.
And I think you're in the kind of business where you can generate customers. Customers are not hard to locate, and if it's a strong enough value proposition that customers are resonating with, you should be able to bootstrap this business without having to depend on seed investors. And if you can bypass seed investment and go straight to venture capital, that would be incredibly, incredibly favorable for you. And if you can bypass venture capital, even better. You know the whole story, right?
Yes, thanks.
So if you decide that you want to, you don't want to raise financing, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Okay, thank you, Jai. We're going to go to Yi Wang from Pittsburgh, originally from Chengdu, China. Yi, please unmute your line.
Yeah, hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Yi. I'm from China. I'm currently living in Pittsburgh. So today I'd love to introduce my social enterprise to you, which is called Rebag. Next slide, please. So here in Rebag, I founded 2 years ago when I was still in school as a junior. And what we do is we try to tell the stories behind the product. And next slide, please. And next slide, please. And and how we tell the story and why we tell the story is because, as we noticed that fashion industry generates many waste at local and global level. For example, they give too many choices for the customer because customer needs different designs, and also they overproduce a lot in the factory. And also many of the apparel and fashion accessories now are only used like one time and just thrown away or left in the wardrobe. At the same time, as current consumers, people are getting more savvy. People now have increased desire and need to know and feel what exactly behind the product. So here in Rebag, we try to discover, connect, and share the stories behind the bag. And how we do that is through refashioning, integrating with ethnic minority designs, and also customization services. So here we really try to do sustainable fashion by, for example, refashioning surplus inventories from the factories or damaged clothes from the stores and turn them into fashionable accessories which is actually the bag I showed you earlier in the previous slide. At the same time, we try to tell the stories, work with NGOs for the manufacturing, and also use a reusable packaging box. As you can see on the slide, our packaging box can be turned into like a photo frame. So basically what we're really trying to do as a business with social purpose is to address sustainable fashion issues by building a vertical supply chain that we involve like all the different social enterprise or stakeholders. As you can see, we involve like department stores, factories, enterprises who's doing like manufacturing and sewing, social enterprises doing the packaging design, and then we sell here in the United States. Next slide, please. So having this idea behind, we really try to talk to customers who are mostly ladies between 20 and 40, who are also very active social media users and love to share the stories, love to hear the stories. And we also want to talk to people who are really, very, conscious about what this product means, like who share the same idea with us that what you wear is who you are, who also care about sustainability, environment, women empowerment, they care about the social causes, they care about the bigger values behind just the product. And as we can see from all the different reports, social media, and even personal experiences, like this segment of customer has been growing tremendously over the years. Next slide, please. Yeah, so how we approach them? Given our brand image, our product, and our target customer position, we use like three major channels. One is, of course, through social media, like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, especially Instagram, as people love to see the pictures. And then we also personally believe that for Rebag, it's more like a visual marketing. And then we also be invited to all the different fashion events, like the Fashion Week Corcoran, Fashion Week Pittsburgh, and also the many fashion bloggers want to cover us. And all of this really drew much attention. And as we can see, from a more professional side, all those people in the fashion industry really give us really high comments on our design, our concept. And at the same time, while we have our own online store, which you can see as myrebag.com, we also try to sell in boutiques. Just because at this stage we really want to get more distribution to push the product out, to test the idea with markets. So we are now currently selling the 2 boutiques in New York City and 1 boutique in Philly. And the sales is actually good. Was of course small volume, however, actually goes away there, like be bought by the customers very quickly. We actually had a couple of sales, like just the second day we bought the product in store. Next slide, please.
So are you saying, are you saying that you have products already that are being sold through boutiques?
Yes.
Okay. And are these people who are buying your products, are they actually sharing the stories behind those products in social media? Has that loop closed?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now we are mainly working as consignment or like selling partner with them. So they actually advertising in their boutiques. At the same time, we also try to do cross marketing together. So so the boutiques will actually put our story, share the story behind the bag, upload our product photos onto their social media, such as Instagram or their own blog. At the same time, we also did like a video with the boutique owners, having them sharing their own boutique stories, and also sharing like their ideas, how they see Rebag and how they think our product fits in your store, and also basically trying to call more attention to our target customers.
Okay.
Yes. So we did receive many positive feedback from the customers. As you can see, when we have offline vendor events, booth, people really walk by, and then when they come by, of course, they say, "Oh my God, it's so cute." And then the second question is, "How much is it?" So we definitely see people really want to buy this product. And at the same time, as I started like as a junior, so I actually did I did design, part of the design. Also, I worked with my college friends at that time for their graduation, and all the professors, and they all share their own story, and also they give very positive feedback on that as well. So next slide, please. So right now, I think we're on a good track. We start to have media attention. We start to have sales. At the same time, I tend to think of course, more long-term strategically how I can build this brand, remain its uniqueness, and at the same time really expand the distribution, because at the end of the day, I position ourselves as in the fashion industry, but trying to bring like sustainable fashion awareness. So as a retailer, I'm really trying to build sales, which is the priority thing here. So that's currently our challenges is like how do we distinguish our brand image from other eco or sustainable fashion brands? I would say one thing is we really tell the story, but we really want to build a very deep image in our customer. Feedback here is to having this story throughout all of the products behind, throughout the supply chain. And so I've been thinking about how we build this distinguished brand image from our competitors. And secondly, how we actually encourage.
I have a very developed point of view on the topic of brand image and fashion brands in general. I don't know if you know, I ran a fashion company in the late 90s. My point of view is that the best way to develop a brand image is through the products that you sell. And that product, the design of the product and the functionality of the product needs to be differentiated and unique and interesting, and that's what really drives whether people want to buy your product or not. If you look at Apple is a fashion brand, right? Apple is not the big factor that drives Apple is the product itself.
Yeah.
So you really need to, if I were you, what I would do is really understand the competitive landscape of eco and sustainable fashions and look at what kind of products people are selling, what kind of designs, what kind of categories, and really develop a well-formed point of view on exactly what is your design philosophy, what is your merchandising philosophy, what is the product that is going to give you a differentiated position in the market, and if you can get that, and if you can position that product to a specific customer and so forth, then word of mouth will pick you up. All this traction and so forth, customers, when they get really excited, talk about the products that they're buying and the products that they're wearing. Apple has passionate customers. Tesla has passionate customers that are constantly talking about the product that they're buying, the brand that they're championing. So, but if you have to get the product right, and that is going to drive everything. If it's a Me Too product, it's very difficult to build a brand around that.
Yes, agree.
Okay, so that's really where I would work. If you want to work with me, I will be happy to help you, think this through and so forth. We are, that's what we do. So I'm happy to give you more granular feedback as you do your competitive analysis and bring all that to me. I will be happy to brainstorm with you and shepherd you along. But you really need to get the brand positioning right. Okay?
Thank you. Yeah.
So go do your comparative analysis. Go do your comparative analysis and let's get the positioning right.
Okay. Thank you. And I think once I have that done, I'm able to solve the traffic and distribution problem as well.
Yes, I think if you can get that is the key piece, and that's the most difficult piece. Most people don't get it right. So that's the difference between a great brand and a Me Too product or a Me Too venture. And if you want to really be successful, you have to get that positioning right, the brand positioning right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. So folks, if you like what we're doing here, please refer serious entrepreneurs to 1M1M. We are here to work with you. We like to, help you make progress. That's why we are here. That's why we started 1M1M. But we are looking for serious entrepreneurs who are willing to do the, heavy lifting over many years to build great businesses. And that's really our quest, is to find those entrepreneurs and put all our resources behind those entrepreneurs to make them successful. So I'll just run you through what you can expect in terms of what we have in 1M1M and how to use the program. So 1mby1m.com is the website. That's where everything, all our resources are. We also have a very powerful free blog where you will learn a lot if you follow the blog. And then the Entrepreneur Journeys book series is available on Amazon Kindle. We have 12 volumes of Entrepreneur Journeys. And you will, you can double click on any of these topics. Each of them have 12 to 16 case studies of successful entrepreneurs. And it's a very low priced entry point into the program to start learning our methodology. If you go to the website, there's a ton of material. Many of you are trying to decide whether you want to join the 1M1M program or not. This is the premium program I'm talking about. You can obviously come to these roundtables for free and learn, continue to learn for as long as you want to. For those of you who are trying to figure out whether to join the premium program or not, there's a tremendous amount of information on the website for you to evaluate the program and figure out whether you want to join or not. And if you we would like you to join early in your cycle so that we can shepherd you along as quickly as possible and put you on the right path instead of you bouncing around and futzing around. First-time entrepreneurs is a very, very, very steep learning curve, and the reason we are here is to make that learning curve as crisp, as efficient, as fast for you as possible so that you don't burn through a lot of resources that you need to conserve to be able to deploy on the right agenda. These roundtables happen every week. This is the 269th roundtable. We still have many roundtables left this summer. You can make a lot of progress this summer, and we are here. We are here to do these working sessions with you and help you make progress. Go to the free roundtable page and register to pitch or to attend. The premium program has extensive methodology guidance. It costs $1,000. It's got a curriculum, very powerful curriculum that has been in the market now for 5 years, and we have trained many, many, many entrepreneurs using this curriculum. We help you with business development in some of the cases that we were talking about today. We have a lot of connections into the mobile developer network and so forth. So if you're looking for business development help, we are here to help you connect with customers, channel partners, also investors if you are looking for financing. We help you with strategy consulting. We help you with media relations, and we give you access to our entire, media cloud. Basically, we have huge cloud in social media and in media in general. So we will help you get your word out there. The $1 Million Club is where you will meet a lot of successful 1M1M entrepreneurs. You can look at it on the website. We have an ROI equation. We charge just $1,000 annual membership fee and no equity, and the ROI we deliver against that is $375,000 plus 5 to 10% of equity. So it's a very high value program for a very, very small amount of money. And then we give you lots of tools. So 1M1M self-assessment is a free tool on the website. You can. These are the questions that investors are going to ask you. If you are thinking, if you're considering investment, please go take the self-assessment and make sure you can answer all these questions, because the investors will want you to answer those questions. So as I said, lots of information on the premium program on the website, video FAQs, tons of material that will help you decide whether you want to join the program or not. Make that decision as quickly as possible and get into the program early so that you don't burn through resources that you can save and conserve. The curriculum, by the way, is taught in case studies and video lectures. We've had over 600 very successful entrepreneurs come and share their stories and their journeys and their advice to you with us, and we have stitched all this up so that you can learn from over 600 successful entrepreneurs in a very crisp, very efficient way. So it's a fantastic repository of knowledge that is garnered from, hundreds of entrepreneurs whom you would not meet in your regular life. But this experience gives you, it kind of simulates the experience of having coffee with over 600 really successful entrepreneurs, including those who have built billion-dollar businesses. So very powerful experience, very inspirational, very educational, and take advantage of it. The curriculum has a core and an elective. There are 7 core modules, and then there's a bunch of elective modules. As I said several times today, in response to questions about financing, we have a very comprehensive financing module. You need to understand what is fundable, what is not fundable. You need to learn that module, and this will tell you a lot. It will tell you volumes about where you need to go with your financing strategy, and we will work with you constantly as you are using the curriculum to learn. We will be there with you, shepherding you along in designing and your own strategy on how you want to move forward with your business. We have a ton of electives that are industry specific, whether it's e-commerce or cloud computing or mobile apps, healthcare, IT, online education. We have elective modules on that as well. Customer acquisition, comprehensive modules. We can teach you lots of material on each of these topics. Bootstrapping, positioning. Positioning is something that you have to get right. We emphasize hugely on positioning here, and it's something that you absolutely have to work on. And that's kind of what we are looking for from you, is that you are willing to do the learning, do the self-learning required to get yourself up to speed so that you can, work at par with the entrepreneurs who are a lot more experienced than you are, and really make good decisions. Our methodology is lean, capital-efficient, bootstrap startups. Even if you raise money, you will have to bootstrap to validation. If no one funds anything that is unvalidated these days. And then, as I said, we will introduce you to, we'll give you a lot of coverage basically through our network and our channels. That's it. If you are building a program anywhere in the world for entrepreneurs, please feel free to look at the 1M1M affiliate program. We're happy to partner with you. We partner very well. And then upcoming free roundtables, basically there's 1 more in July and 3 more in August. That's the summer roster. Vision India 2020, for those of you who are working in emerging markets, these are ideas that you can take from the book and implement them yourselves or morph them, however you want to interpret those ideas. These are ideas. This is an ideation book. This is a book that will help you come up with ideas for emerging markets. And then we have the 1M1M incubator in a box, which we use with a variety of partners to bring together incubation programs for them. So again, if you are trying to build an incubation program somewhere in some part of the world, please feel free to reach out. We'll be happy to work with you. Some of the recent Entrepreneur Journeys books, $1 Billion Unicorns is the latest that came out in January, still going very strong. It's an opportunity to sit down and have coffee with a bunch of entrepreneurs who have built $1 Billion Unicorns. That's essentially the experience of this book. And it's a very powerful experience, a very inspiring experience. Same here, Carnival in the Cloud. These are entrepreneurs who have built successful cloud companies, and you get to see perspectives and points of views. Bootstrapping with a Paycheck. A lot of people come to us who are still holding on to their full-time jobs and trying to build companies on the side, and will eventually have aspirations of quitting their jobs and jumping full-time into their entrepreneurial ventures. So Bootstrapping with a Paycheck introduces you to a dozen or more such entrepreneurs, and you get to sit down with them and have coffee. That's the experience. Similarly, e-commerce to Web 3.0, we have a ton of e-commerce entrepreneurs who have built successful companies, and we introduce you to them and create an opportunity for you to sit down and have coffee again. So that's what the Entrepreneur Journeys book series is. I want you to have coffee with a bunch of entrepreneurs in each volume and learn about their journey. So that's how I came up with the whole Entrepreneur Journeys concept, and now we have a dozen books in that series. So you get to have coffee with hundreds of entrepreneurs, basically. That's it. So call in time, and while you are, figuring out whether you want to call in or ask questions in public chat, let me run through the introductions that have come in public chat. We have E Wang has just pitched. You've heard her pitch. And Yashwant from Tempe, Arizona, works on Centil, a medical device startup through the EdSurge program at Arizona State University. Jay from Chennai has also just pitched. You have listened to his pitch already. Those are the introductions we've seen, so please feel free to introduce yourselves and also, of course, ask questions. Please do not send me private messages. This is not a private roundtable. This is a public roundtable, and you need to send messages so that the people in the room can learn about what you're asking. Tracy Neal is saying, I'm curious as to how long does a typical entrepreneur stay in the program. With the steep learning curve, I would expect it is 2 to 3 years. We have a lot of entrepreneurs who stay multiple years, 2, 3, 4 years. So this is our 5th year in the program. We haven't completed our 5th year yet. So yes, we often see 2, 3 year longevity in the program, absolutely. It does take time to move through the full cycle of building a business, absolutely. And people get a lot of value from staying in the program for multiple years. Bilal Tariq, you're sending me private messages. I know you've just joined the premium program and you would like to discuss a Vision India idea called Thakur, and you would like to talk a bit of idea validation. I just sent you an email in response to your message to me saying that I would appreciate that if you do some of the curriculum that would help us get on the same page, and you have access to all the private roundtables. You can come to all the private roundtables at any point. If you want to talk to me at a private roundtable, you can do that. If you want to talk now at this roundtable, you can do that. You can call in. The instructions for calling in are on your screen, and we can talk right now. So anyone who wants to talk to me right now, please feel free to dial in. Let us know in public chat that you're dialing in. Anybody? All right, while you're doing that, let me also introduce you to Irina Patterson. Those of you who are considering the program and have questions, you can reach out to Irina at 1mby1m.com, and she'll be happy to answer your questions. That's pretty much it from us today, unless you have questions. So remember one thing. These are working sessions, whether it's a public roundtable or a private roundtable for the premium members, these are all working sessions. Our intent is to work with you on all your issues, and that's what we are doing here. Every time you come here and put an issue forward, what our intent will be is to help you, is to work with you, and is to give you pointers on how to address those issues and solve your problems and help you move forward, get past the roadblocks. Okay? Entrepreneurship is a long-term process. You have to kind of keep at it and keep going. So our intent is to help you in that process of keeping on going and removing the roadblocks. And sometimes you have to pivot. Sometimes your original idea doesn't work and you have to pivot, and that's okay. That's how a lot of successful businesses have been built. I have a favorite case study of a company called Taboola that spent 5 years with no revenue at all. And then in the 6th year, actually 4 years with no revenue at all, 5th year they made $1 million, 6th year they made $100 million in revenue. And now they're $1 billion unicorn. So it's, it can be done, and you can do it. So we are here to help you do it. Okay, folks, that's all for today then. Tracy is asking which company, Tableau? No, that's not Tableau. Tableau is a fantastic case study, by the way. You should study Tableau. We have lots of coverage of Tableau. This one is Taboola, T-A-B-O-O-L-A. There we go. We will have Taboola in the show sometime later in the program. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody, and we will see you next week. Bye.